So you want and no, you'll never be. Number two, not an option, take a seat.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. This is episode 30. Finally reached 30 episodes, man. I probably should have had more, but we here now. You know what I mean? And we finally reached the halfway mark of season 8. And I don't know, man. I got some mixed feelings about this last episode. You know what I mean? It was an episode, had a lot going on, but nothing really going on at the same time, if that makes sense. And when the episode ended, I kind of just felt like, all right, you know what I mean? Like, we had an episode. I just watched 30 minutes of Rick and Morty, but it didn't feel like a Rick and Morty episode. You know what I mean? And what's crazy about the whole situation is this was one of the first episodes of the seasons that I feel like was a Rick and Morty adventure. You know what I mean? Episode 1, you know what I mean? It was fucking Space Beth episode. You know what I mean? We had a Jerry episode. We had an episode with the entire family. But this was the first. Oh no, I'm sorry. The first episode was the Rick and Morty Charger episode. But this was the first like Rick and Morty episode, man, and there really wasn't much going on. So I thought it was just me. I thought I was like asking for too much as a fan, you know what I mean, mentally. But then I listened to a few podcasts, checked out a couple, you know what I mean, couple streams, and I think it's kind of across the board, man. Everybody was just like, okay, that happened. So let's go ahead, man. Let's get into this exciting episode and break it down a little bit. Like I said, this is season 8, episode 5. Cryo Mort or Rickver is the name of the episode. Pull that up because it isn't easy to say. And here we go. So season 8, episode 5, Cryo Mort or Rickver. Obviously, play on words. Justin Timberlake's "Cry Me a River." We all know the song. You know what I mean? So that's the name of the episode, as you could tell with the play on words. It was a cryo episode. We haven't really had many cryo episodes as of late. The last one I can think of was back in Morty's Mind Blowers. There was a scene where Rick kills like a whole civilization of people, but I don't really think they were cryo as to where they were just, well, I guess they were cryo people. Yeah, he accidentally hits the switch, turning off the lights and kills everybody. That was pretty much the last time we had like a cryo episode. You know what I mean? Basically, this episode starts off Rick and Morty riding out listening to podcasts. They're listening to true crime podcasts, which that kind of took the whole lead for the episode. And basically, it was just, Rick talking about, if we're going to listen to a true crime podcast, like put on the detailed, gory podcast. You know what I mean? Not the weak. I'm going to tell you the overall general idea of what happened, but I'm not actually going to tell you what happened podcast. Fans of this genre tend to go more into the detailed, gruesome, gory, doesn't matter who they offend type podcasts, because that seems to get more of their interest. I think that's pretty much the same way with like documentaries and things like that. But that's basically what this episode was. So they end up finding an abandoned ship out in the middle. They're going to go raid it, and coming across the ship, they find a whole civilization full of fucking cryo people who they come to find out have left their home because their home was destroyed, and now they're looking for a new home. This entire civilization, however, has a whole rich colony and a poor colony. Consisted of the rich are the takies, and the poor are the makies. Basic concept is they taking and they making. Which actually kind of falls even funnier because prior to it, well, before they woke everybody up, Rick was like, it's like taking candy from a baby. And Morty had no issue with it. You know what I mean? Like Morty had no issue with the concept of taking candy from a baby. However, once they got there and realized it was a ship full of cryo people and Rick wanted to steal everything in their vault, now Morty had morals. Like, it's not okay to steal from a civilization who's frozen for like 2,000 years, but, stealing candy from a baby is okay. You know what I mean? So that's Morty's concept of morals, morals. You know what I mean? There really isn't any. So they end up, you know what I mean? As they're fighting, they end up accidentally, awaking, what I'm saying, ending the cryo stage and awaking everybody. So they had to switch bodies. So Rick ends up switching with these bag of dead bones on one level. Morty goes to another level, switches with the body. Come to find out, Rick is the son of two parents who just think because they were cryogenically frozen that he grew 40 years, in this fucking freezer. And Morty ends up going down to the level with all the workers, the Makies, and people don't even realize the concept. Like, hey, the dude who he's now, Morty ends up becoming T'Chako. They're like, hey, bro, like nobody thought of the concept. Like Morty had just decreased in age by like 50 years, and fucking Rick, who's now Jimmy, had fucking increased in age by 50 years. But apparently that, you know what I mean, nobody on the ship was smart enough to understand that concept. They just thought one digressed and the other progressed. Then we get to the end of the episode. We see actually T'Chako, and Morty was like, well, what the fuck? Like, this is who you thought I was? Like, nobody questioned this shit. You know what I mean? So I thought that shit was fucking hilarious. And that just kind of like, that kind of throws into like the amount of, like I said earlier, there was a lot of shit going on in this episode, but there wasn't really much going on. You know what I mean? Like, there was a lot of storyline. You know what I mean? Fucking frozen civilization, they awaken. This whole fucking identity switch, and because they're trying to get into the vault. I mean, it's like I said, it's a true crime episode, but there wasn't really much going on. And to be honest, like that's kind of how I feel like about a lot of true crime TV. It's like it's just a lot of shit, but nothing really fucking going on. Like a lot of them end up being boring and shit. You know what I mean? So we got to the part where Rick and Morty are now Jimmy and T'Chako. However, on this shit, man, it's very Titanic like. You know what I'm saying? Because they have the upper deck, who's full of all the rich, and then you have the lower deck, who's full of all the poor. Morty's obviously on the lower deck with the poor, and consciously, subconsciously, Morty ends up fucking starting a rebel. You know what I mean? He got all these people. He took out their chips because they all had like sensory chips. that they, if they talked bad, thought bad about the rich people, they'd automatically get shocked. Morty had them all take them out. So now they got this whole fucking rebel going on, and that's actually where we finally get to see the scene, which is in the beginning intro, where we have Chaco, who is Makey Morty, beating up Jimmy, who is Takey Rich, right here. That's the intro scene. So that's actually the first intro scene, and we got fucking Rick kissing Nimbus at the end. But that's the first fucking bro. I hope we get another fucking Nimbus this fucking goddamn season, bro. They got to bring Nimbus back, man. But yeah, that's the first scene of the season that comes from the intro. Now, we've been doing this shit for 8 seasons now. We know not every scene is gonna make it into the season, or we won't see every scene in the season, but we still see a lot of them. Just like we're still waiting, to see in the actual show then be chased by the Cthulhu. You know what I mean? So, well, maybe we'll see it one day, maybe we won't, but this is like I said, that is the first scene from the season that's popped up in the intro scene. You know what I mean? So, so like I said, man, the rebel begins. They start killing off people. The Makeys and the Takeys start fighting. They're killing off people, and it finally the truth ends up coming out. You know what I mean? Rick was like, all right, stop. Let me tell everybody what's going on. Comes to find out, Jimmy and the real Jimmy and Chaco are the ones that stole everything out of the vault and ended up taking off to this casino planet. The casino planet was called Blackjack 9. Now, Blackjack 9, as you can see right here, that's the casino city that Jimmy and Chaco went to, right? For all my Star Wars fans, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a fan of Star Wars, but I'm not a Star Wars fan. You know what I mean? So I'm not sure what series it came from, but it's very, very similar to Canto Bight from Star Wars. You know what I mean? They're there, they're partying, they're gambling. That's pretty much, and Rick and Morty always has a million Star Wars, Marvel references. So I do believe Blackjack 9 and Rick and Morty is a parody to Canto Bight, you know what I mean, in Star Wars. So so they find out that they go there, right? Morty still tries to create peace. He's like, nah, no. Like, let's chill out. Y'all don't need the money. Let's start over. Everybody's on equal slate. They all said, fuck that, took off into what became like a rat race type situation. Everybody's driving these weird automobiles that just, some are tractors, some are fucking cars, some are actual ships and stuff like that. And they're all headed there, killing each other off, being greedy, blah, blah, blah. A bunch of rich people chasing more money. And it was very rat race-ish. Rat race-ish. You know what I mean? And as for those that don't know, Rat Race was a movie about a bunch of random people that get, brought together, selected to do this survival type fucking race for a chance to win money, and it's by any means necessary type shit, basically. You know what I mean? And that's exactly what happened. During this rat race, which kind of leads to the outro scene, we see a zookeeper who we come to find out loses his monkey. Monkey was named Lizzie. Those are the bones that were replaced, that Jimmy replaced, that Rick threw out. He ends up finding a new monkey along the race. That's the new Lizzie. We see it in the outro. You know what I mean? They end up gambling. Lizzie, fuck it. The new Lizzie ends up winning big. And their own little saga, starts. And that's probably also a parody off of the old Clint Eastwood, you know what I mean? What was it called? Every Which Way But Loose. Old movie where, he was best friends with a chimpanzee or an orangutan. Yeah, chimpanzee. I mean, that's always like the go-to, you know what I mean? Throw a monkey in a movie and it's just hilarious. Or it becomes serious. I don't know. Fucking King Kong, Planet of the Apes. I mean, there's plenty of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always like, hey man, we need a new idea. All right, well, Let's just create a new monkey. You know, good guy, bad, Curious George. Fucking, you know what I mean? That was what was the dude? The movie that just flopped, where the dude he like it was a true story about some dude in Europe that nobody fucking knew about in America, and the movie flopped because he played like a monkey singing in the movie. You know what I mean? Like that was his go-to, which was dumb as fuck. But I still don't know who the fuck that dude is. But but anyways, man, one peculiar part. So after all this shit happened, Rick and Morty are leaving. They're going back home. Um, Rick mentions like because he becomes fond of the parents that thought he was Jimmy. You know what I'm saying? He became real fond because they were good people. He was gonna shit on them, steal all their shit, but he didn't. He ended up choosing not to. Like he really didn't even want to go into the vault afterwards. It was Morty that took him to the vault, made him open it. But he was just like, you know what I mean? Morty asked him, he was like, you told him the truth. And he was like, yeah, they were good people. They were good to me. Try it sometime. And that just goes back to, you know, the found family and the mentioning of Rick's parents, you know what I mean? Like obviously this version of his family, you know, Beth, Jerry, Summer, Morty, it's a it's a it's a it's a collaboration of different universes. You know what I mean? Like he basically put this family together. You got this Morty from the Cronenberg universe. Obviously, this is C-137 Rick. The family is from the Parmesan universe. No. The family's from the family's from a different universe, and they all came to a Parmesan universe. So that's what he means about the found family. That's what kind of what it like led to. On top of that, you know, there's a mention of Rick's parents, who the last time or first time we actually got to see Rick's parents or any kind of mention of them um, was back in season 5, I think it was. Yeah, season 5, episode 8. So Rick Turnell, Friendshine of the Spotless Mort. That was the time when we actually got to see Rick's family. And in the picture I got up, you can actually see in that scene there was a picture before Diane was killed of Rick and Evil Rick or Prime Rick um, before shit went bad. You know what I mean? So that was the first time the mention of his parents. But then, as you can see, you know, we got a picture of his parents that was blurred out, and then later it was became pixelized. You know, Rick and his parents right there. You know what I mean? So that was like they don't mention them often, but every time they mention them, it probably does play some type of significance. So maybe we'll see something about that later on. Who knows? Let's see what else we had, man. Um, and that was pretty much it, man. Like I said, bro, like there was a lot in this episode, but not a lot really happened. You know what I mean? Um, I feel like it was a filler episode. Um, I definitely let's see. Let me pull something up, man. Because I mean, it definitely wasn't my favorite episode of the season. I heard a lot of people say I'd just be reading through comments and you know what I mean, and fucking blogs and streams and podcasts, listening to Rick and Morty shit all week. And so a lot of people, man, I heard a lot of people talking about the Jerry episode last week was the worst episode of the season. And I don't like to say worst, man, because none of them are horrible. No, at least in my opinion, there's no worst. I mean, obviously, you're gonna have your favorites and you're gonna have your not so favorites. It's like a fucking like an album or something. You know what I mean? Like you got your favorite tracks and you got your not so favorite tracks, but you still watch them all. You still listen to them all. Um, like I said, we got through 5 episodes so far. There's 10 in the season, so we're at the halfway point. There is no, mid-season break, so that's awesome. Um, if I had to rank them right now, I would say coming in at number 5 would definitely be this episode, Cryo Mortar Rickver. Um, there's just like I said, just wasn't a lot going on. You know what I mean? Not a lot going on. Um, definitely felt like a filler episode, so I would probably rate that number 5. Um, Number 4 would probably be the week before that. You know what I mean? The Last Temptation of Jerry, the Easter Bunny episode. So I probably put that there. Coming in at number 3, I would say Volkrick. So the Space Beth episode. I would probably put that at number 3. Cool episode. You know what I mean? Not bad, not great. You know what I mean? It's, I guess right now it's top 3. You know what I mean? As far as this season goes so far in the first 5. So I mean, it was a funny episode. It was episode 2 of the season. We got to see Space Beth. You know, first episode, probably the only episode we'll get of the season where it's just Rick and Space Beth. Maybe we'll get a Space Beth whole Sanchez family, Smith family episode, but you know, who knows? At number 2, I would have to put episode 1, Summer of All Fears. Good episode, real good episode. You know what I mean? You know, we had classic Rick, Morty, and Summer episode. We think we know what's going on. Boom! At the end, Rick's been fucking with him the whole time. Then it comes to backfire. You know what I mean? So I thought it was a funny episode. Great way to start the fucking new season. But I do have it at number 2 right now, which means at number 1 I have episode 3, which is the Rick, the Mort, and the Ugly. That is when they were trying to rebuild the Citadel. They had Boss Hog Rick. They had the Rick that created all the fucking clones. You know what I'm saying? I thought that was a fucking dope episode. We got to see, it was very Rick and Morty-ish once again. You know, obviously it was a Rick and Morty episode, but you know, we got to see the other Ricks. You know, we're back at the Citadel. We're time traveling. We're doing this and that. So I thought it was as so far in season 8, I thought that was my most favorite, best, likable Rick and Morty episode. You know what I mean? It was just real Rick and Morty-esque. And I feel like, man, towards the second, I mean, it's been a good season. I like this so far. I'm not one of those fucking, oh my God, I'm going to critique every frame. And like, I listened to a couple dudes. Well, I listen to a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Shouts out to Interdimensional RSS. You know what I mean? I listened to one guy, though, no names. And he was just like dogging it out, man. Like, oh, this episode was horrible. And you know what I'm saying? This, and that. And none of it made sense. And there was so many errors. And look, man, it's a 30-minute cartoon. You know what I mean? Animation, whatever the fuck you want to label it as. That's all it is, man. Couple people I've read comments like, oh, they've had years to do this. And they said they've already been wrote out to season 10. And this is the bullshit we got. Hey, man. ain't nobody making you watch it, bro. Just change the channel. You live on the East Coast and you're staying up, you know what I mean, till 11 o'clock to watch it just to be mad and critique every frame. You probably ain't got a life anyways, bro. So, I mean, your opinion probably doesn't weigh much. You know what I'm saying? But just enjoy it. Just enjoy the show. That's all you got to do. Enjoy the show. You know what I mean? Not every episode is going to be good. Fucking South Park's been on for fucking how many years? Like 30? You know what I mean? Not every episode is a good episode. It's just the way it is, man. If you're a fan of Rick and Morty, you're a fan. That's it. You know what I mean? I like to read the comic books also because there's a lot of shit in the stories and in the season that you don't see. You know what I mean? We got the Rick and Morty anime. There's a lot of variations of Rick and Morty, man. And if you read all this shit and you watch all this shit because you're a fan, and some of the shit is Easter eggs. Like, I mean, I'm gonna go back and fucking read a bunch of the older comics, and some of the newer ones because there's so many series. And I'm gonna try to see if like there was anything related to this episode. You know what I mean? Just like when we had the Bigfoot episode, that was a whole series of comic. You know, so people thought the Bigfoot episode was just a random episode, and it wasn't. So, and speaking of the comics, man, shout out to Jarrett Williams, bro. You know what I mean? He's one of the artists on the Rick and Morty comics. Dope, firework, bro. You know what I'm saying? Check him out, Jarrett Williams. Follow him. That's his Instagram, Jared Williams. But yeah, man, that's pretty much it. You know what I mean? Fucking not you know what I'm saying, nothing too crazy this episode. You know, I look forward to probably a fire ass second half of the season, which I'm sure it'll be. But I mean, aside from that, man, you know what I mean? We have episode 6 coming out next week. Exactly, man. That's what I'm saying, Jaden. I like it. I like the season so far. It's been a good season. I think we've had bad seasons before, and this ain't it. You know what I mean? So I think we have even funnier and better episodes to come. I can't wait for it. Like I said, what I said, season or episode 6. So the next episode is, I'm gonna fuck this up, the Curixis case of Benjamin Button. So I'm sure somebody's gonna have some type of fuck. If it goes anything by the title, somebody's gonna have some type of Benjamin Button syndrome. So we'll see how that plays. It's probably gonna be Jerry. It's fucking always Jerry. You know what I mean? So most likely we'll probably get a whole Smith family Sanchez episode, which would be dope. So, I mean, other than that, man, I appreciate everybody tuning in. If you're listening on podcasts, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, the YouTube podcast, follow me on Instagram at Rickle Pick Live, Twitter Rickle Pick Live, and if you want to follow all my shit, I'm on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter at NR_originals. I appreciate everybody. You said what? Nah, I think they always say we're not going to see it, and I'm sure that we'll probably end up seeing it again, or at least a mention of it. The interdimensional cable episodes are always some of the best episodes. So I think even though they say they're not, we probably still will. They're always the best. But later, y'all have a nice night. I will be back next week. Tuesday next week. I'll be back. You know what I mean? So, hey, man, follow me, share, like, subscribe, and everybody that tuned in. I appreciate it. Until next week, man, I'm going to see y'all later. Peace out.
So you want and or you'll never be. Number 2, not an option. Take a seat.